The prosthetic knee snapped, and the truck's grill filled the crosswalk. "Move," Gabe yelled, already sprinting. Tires screamed. The woman went down hard, metal scraping asphalt. He hit her like a linebacker, wrapped both arms and dragged. The truck blasted past, horn blaring, wind slamming his back. Amira clipped his shoulder and spun him. They landed against the curb, her breath hitched. His hands shook. "Don't," she whispered, sucking in air through clenched teeth. "Don't pull the leg, it's locked wrong." Blood trickled down her shin, but the blood wasn't the problem. The carbon tube below her knee hung at a bad angle. The knee unit had cracked through the pivot. Gabe scanned fast. Street, shop open bay, tool cart. He'd left a crate by the roll-up door. He scooped her up under the arms. She hissed but didn't scream. He half carried, half dragged her into the shade of the garage. "Name?" he asked, already grabbing an old leather belt and a towel. "Avery?" "Gabe." He slid the towel under her thigh. "This might pinch." "Just fix it," she said, jaw set. He looked at the knee. The connector plate had sheared. The pylon slipped free if she put weight on it. 2 screws were still seated. A third had ripped out and bent the housing. This wasn't a car, but metal was metal. Loads were loads. "Can you feel your toes?" "Yes." "Good." He dug into the crate. "Hose clamps, U-bolt, rubber spacer." He stripped the belt, cut it with a utility blade, and wrapped it as a cushion around the tube. He slotted the U-bolt over the belt and ratcheted the clamps to pin the pylon against the knee shell. He wedged a shim into the gap to set the angle. She watched his hands. "That going to hold?" "It'll hold enough to get you home," he said. "Do not run a marathon." The leg looked brutal. It looked patched. It looked solid. He slid an old stool under her. "Ready to test?" She nodded. He helped her stand. Her breath came shallow. She set her weight. The clamp creaked. The knee didn't collapse. "Slow," he said. She took 2 steps, then 3. A strangled laugh broke out of her and came back fast. She was pale but steady. He was already cleaning the scrape on her shin. "You need to see a prosthetist today, tomorrow morning at the latest." "Okay," she said, swallowing. "Thank you." He wrapped gauze, taped it. He could still hear the truck horn in his bones. She pulled a credit card from her pocket with shaking fingers. "Please, let me," he shook his head. "No charge." Her eyes darted to his grease-stained shirt, the cargo pants patched at one knee, the light that flickered in the bay because the ballast was dying. She looked back at him. "You did all that in 2 minutes," she said. "At least let me pay it forward," he said. "You almost died in front of my shop. That's enough for one day." Her mouth trembled like she might argue. She didn't. She dug in her tote and pulled out a plain white card, only a number handwritten on it. "If anything goes weird, text me. It's my direct line." He took it without looking. "Get that fixed, seriously." "I will," she said. She tried her weight again. The U-bolt creaked and held. She lifted her chin. "You didn't hesitate," he shrugged. "You were in the road." Her laugh this time was real. "You didn't hesitate," she repeated, and then she limped out into the sun. The card went into his pocket. He watched until she rounded the corner, then he rolled his shoulder and winced. The landlord was waiting by the office door. "Hero," Mr. Klein said, flipping a folder open like a slapping hand. "Rent." Gabe wiped his palms on a rag. The adrenaline left him with the speed of a draining sink. The shop smelled like hot rubber and dust. A 03 Corolla sat on the lift, 2 oil changes backed up. He had a list on the wall with parts circled and all the circles underlined in red. "It's the 15th, Gabe said. "You're 45 days late," Klein said. He tapped the paper. "Notice to vacate, 30 days from today." Gabe stared at the header. He felt stupid and 10 years old. "We talked about an extension." "We talked about you paying me on time," Klein said. He gestured at the cracked concrete floor. "Developers are offering cash, serious cash. This block is getting scraped. You want to be here when the bulldozers arrive." Gabe folded the rag slowly. "This shop fed my family. My dad worked here until he couldn't. And my mortgage company doesn't accept nostalgia," Klein said. 30 days. He walked away, heels clicking on the oil-stained concrete like a clock. Gabe watched him go. The breath left his chest again. Leo poked his head out from behind the parts shelf. Was he mad? "Back inside," Gabe said. "Mask up. Sand that caliper bracket." Leo nodded and disappeared. He was 12. He wore headphones to block the grinder noise and tinkered with junk alternators like puzzles. He had a scar on his cheek from a bicycle fall that summer. He had a smile that knocked Gabe flat. The phone didn't ring all afternoon. He finished the Corolla. He ate a gas station sandwich at his workbench and told himself to call the bank, then told himself again, then didn't. At closing, he took the card from his pocket. Plain, white, the number in neat block print. He typed, then deleted. He stared. He slid the card into the drawer with the title papers and the photo of his dad under the old neon sign, laughing with a cigarette in his teeth. In the morning, an inspector showed up with a clipboard. Signage violation, the inspector said, taping a bright orange notice on the door. Permit expired. Also that banner, non-compliant. Gabe stood in the doorway with his hands in his pockets and reminded his throat how to swallow. The banner is for a school fundraiser, he said. Take it down, the inspector said. Also, you've got an oil disposal discrepancy. I use a licensed recycler, Gabe said. Then you should have no problem producing receipts, the inspector said, and he walked back to his car. 3 customers came by. One spent 40 minutes asking questions about brake rotors and then left to think about it. The light kept flickering. The U-bolt clamp sat on the corner of the workbench where he dropped it. At noon, a kid in a cracked wheelchair coasted in. The front caster wobbled and jammed. His mother hovered, embarrassed. How much? She asked, clutching a little coin purse like it would fight her. Gabe squatted, flipped the chair, and spun the caster. The bearing was shot. He rummaged for a spare from a rolling stool he'd trashed last winter. It fit. He greased it and tightened it down. The boy pushed himself forward. The chair rolled smooth. He grinned. The mother fought tears. How much? She asked again. No charge, Gabe said and looked away. The mother pressed a crumpled 5 into Leo's hand. Leo looked at his father. Gabe shook his head. Leo gave the bill back. Someone filmed it on a phone. Someone posted it. It got views. Views weren't rent. The bank denied him in a pleasant voice. The lady said words like risk and market conditions. He hung up and had to sit. He made dinner on a hot plate in the office. Pasta with butter. Leo pretended not to notice how his father turned the sauce jar over twice and put it back in the cupboard. That night he lay on the cot in the back room. The shop hummed with the highway. He held the card again in the dark and didn't text. 2 days later, the envelope came from Cole Bio Motion. Cease and desist. Unauthorized repair of a medical device. Liability exposure. Seek counsel. He read each line 3 times. He could see his reflection in the glossy paper. It warped. Leo came up behind him. What is it? Nothing, Gabe said and slid the letter under the mat. His hands shook like they had when he dragged a stranger off hot asphalt. This shaking was worse. This one felt like drowning. He did text then. Just a single question mark to the number on the white card. No answer that day, none the next. Klein came back, this time with a man in a suit. The man in the suit smiled without showing teeth. Voluntary move out gets you a small stipend, he said brightly. Holds you over, friendly exit, new opportunity somewhere else. Somewhere else where? Gabe asked. The suit shrugged. There's a great industrial park off Route 9, 20 miles west. That's not this corner, Gabe said. The suit kept smiling. Everything is negotiable. It's not negotiable for me. Klein's face tightened. 30 days, he repeated as if words were a cudgel. Sunset turned the shop windows gold. Dust floated. Gabe looked at the clock. He could hear the belt of the compressor ticking as it cooled. Get out, a neighbor hissed later that night, grabbing his arm to pull him into the alley, eyes wide. Do you know who that suit is? Cole Properties. They own the block across 3rd. They'll send the sheriffs at dawn and say you resisted. They can't, Gabe said, even as he knew she had been right about other things and would probably be right again. He didn't sleep. He stood by the roll-up and watched the horizon brighten. At 8:02 a.m., 2 deputy cars pulled up. They stood polite, hands open. Behind them, a private crew hovered with dollies and crates. The foreman had a clipboard. If we could do this without drama, he said, we can save everyone's stress. Gabe walked into the office. He put his father's photo in his backpack. He folded the blue coveralls that still smelled like engine degreaser from the 70s. He unscrewed the little brass plaque on the wall that said Santos Auto. He took down Leo's 5th grade drawing of the shop with a smiling sun. He looked at his toolbox. He looked at the toolbox his father had bought himself when he was 21, red paint chipped at the corners, drawers that stuck if you pulled wrong. You can't take that, one deputy said. Lien on all assets. Gabe laughed. It bubbled up and died. Lien on my toolbox. Are you going to chain my hands too? The deputy looked away. Rules were rules. Rules were written somewhere else by people who never crawled under a car in January. A black SUV rolled to the curb. The foreman straightened, then squinted. Press? He asked. Two women in blazers stepped out. Behind them, a woman in a simple navy jacket and flats took the curb slow. Her stride was different, clean, balanced. The U-bolt fix was gone, replaced by a new, sleek knee that whirred softly. The sunlight hit her hair and flashed. Avery, Leo said under his breath. She didn't look at the deputies, she looked at Gabe. He had grease on his fingers and a sheriff's notice in his pocket. Mr. Santos, she said, voice calm as a level bubble. Do you remember me? He stared. You okay? She smiled. Yes, because of you. The foreman stepped forward. Ma'am, you can't be here during. She handed him a document. This is an injunction, she said. Filed an hour ago, effective immediately. Evictions on this block are stayed pending investigation into illegal code enforcement and fraudulent notices. The foreman blinked. The deputies looked at each other. The street went quiet, like it was holding onto that word, illegal, and rolling it around with teeth. Klein came out of the taco place next door, napkin in hand, stopped, and turned the napkin into confetti in his fist. What investigation? He demanded. Avery didn't even glance at him. She raised her hand and a camera guy pointed a microphone. The other woman in the blazer stepped up to the curb and held out a press badge. On the record, Avery said, my name is Avery Cole. The name cracked the air like an axle snapping, heads turned, the deputies shifted, the foreman took a step back. Cole, Klein stuttered. As in Cole Properties, Avery said. As in Cole Bio-Motion. As in the company that sent a cease and desist to a man who saved my life. Gabe looked at the ground. The letter in his pocket felt heavy. Avery kept talking, clear and steady. 1 month ago, I fell in the street because a knee unit my family's company manufactures failed at a fastener point that our engineers flagged 2 years ago. The fix order never went through. The fix isn't coming. The failure happened anyway. Gasps rippled through the crowd. The camera moved. Mr. Santos stopped a truck with his body, she said. He used a U-bolt and a belt and a brain to keep me on my feet until I could get a replacement. He refused money. He told me to pay it forward. Then a week later, my father's company threatened to sue him for not watching me die politely. She turned then, and the look she gave Klein could have cut sheet steel. This block is targeted for demolition because it sits between two properties my father wants to unite. This block is hundreds of jobs and families. My father used his friends at City Code to mark this corner for death. We found the emails. We found the money. A black sedan eased to the curb. Another suit got out. Older, silver hair, blue cufflinks that cost a week's rent. He squared his shoulders like every boardroom belonged to him. Turn off the camera, Victor Cole said, not smiling. Avery didn't turn. Hi, Dad, she said. I warned you I was done whispering. You're not the face of this company, he said. Get in the car. She took a breath. Board voted last night, she said. I am now. Silence. The street was a wire. Victor flicked his eyes to the deputies, then to Gabe, as if maybe this was all a prank. It wasn't, not this time. Avery handed another packet to the foreman. These are purchase papers, she said. Cole Properties no longer holds the mortgage on 903 3rd Street. I do, personally, and I am donating it to a community land trust. Klein took a step like he'd been pushed. No, he said, I have a contract. You had a memorandum of understanding, Avery said. Based on illegal enforcement, that contract is void. Also, Mr. Klein, please don't leave town. Our counsel will be in touch about the bribes you accepted. We have your Venmo. Klein looked like someone had unplugged him. He sank onto a milk crate and stared at his hands. Victor tried to laugh and ended up coughing. You think you can run me out of my own company on a sob story? This isn't a sob story, Avery said. It's a liability nightmare. It's ethics. And it's math. You and your friends made me a test case when I lost my leg at 16. I spent a decade walking your talking points while your factories cut corners. I quit 2 years ago because I couldn't stand it. You didn't return my calls. You didn't notice until today because you never looked down. Her voice didn't rise. It didn't need to. It was a knife without serrations. She turned back to Gabe. "I'm sorry about the letter," he shrugged once. "I got it. My team withdrew it this morning," she said. "Also, we're recalling the knee units with the fastener issue. We're refunding patients. We're offering free upgrades and repairs." Victor took a half step forward, jabbing a finger at Gabe. "You're done here," he hissed. "I'll tie you up in court until you sell that red toolbox for scrap." Avery stepped between them. "No, Dad, he's done being punished for being decent." The deputies shifted stance. The younger one scratched his jaw. The older one looked relieved to be standing near something that made sense. Avery reached into her jacket and pulled out an envelope. She handed it to Gabe. He looked at it and didn't take it. "It's not cash," she said. "It's a deed." He blinked. "A what?" "To this building," she said. "To Santos Auto, free and clear, in your name and your son's. It sits on land you can never be priced off again." He stared at her. He'd known tired. He didn't know how to hold this. Leo touched the envelope with a cautious fingertip, like it might burn. "Dad," Gabe took it then. He slid the paper out with calloused fingers. The words were words. They meant what she said they meant. His eyes blurred. He put the paper back very carefully, like a mechanic putting a fingertip gasket into the groove so it wouldn't crimp. "You don't even know me," he said. Avery's mouth lifted. "I know what you did when nobody was watching," she said. "I know what kind of person refuses money when his world is falling down. I know what a U-bolt feels like when it carries more than it was built to carry." Victor's face pinched. He looked at the camera, at the deputies, at the crowd that had grown along the curb, store owners with arms crossed, teenagers with bikes, old men with folded chairs, a mother with a baby on her shoulder who shifted her weight and stared. "It's publicity," he snapped. "You'll ruin us." Avery glanced at him. "We did that ourselves," she said. "I'm trying to start over." She lifted her chin to the camera. "We're also funding a mobility repair program here," she said. "Monthly free clinics for wheelchairs, walkers, prosthetics. Mr. Santos will run it. We'll train volunteers. We'll pay for equipment. This block will not vanish. It will change so people who live here can still afford to live here." Gabe closed his eyes for a second. He could see his dad's hands in his head, big and careful, teaching him to thread a bolt without cross-threading it. He could smell gasoline and coffee and Sunday newspapers. He could hear his mother laughing in the office once and the echo of it in the quiet when she wasn't there anymore. He opened his eyes. "I fix cars," he said. "And you fix what you can reach," Avery said. "The rest we build." Klein stood up on creaky legs. "I didn't," he sputtered. Avery turned. "Mr. Klein, you pressured tenants, backdated notices, and pocketed expediting fees from a developer who wanted this block cheap. City Attorney's office will want to discuss that. In the meantime, you can call your lawyer." Klein sank back down. Victor's jaw worked. He stepped closer to Avery, and for a second she looked like a child again, and then that passed. He shook his head. "I never taught you to be cruel," he said. "You taught me to call it business," she said softly. "I learned the difference." He looked at Gabe like maybe there was mercy there. Gabe looked back and saw a man who had never gotten transmission fluid in his eyes. He had no words to give him. "Get in the car," Victor said again, this time to emptiness. He got in alone. The sedan pulled away without a siren. Avery exhaled, long and quiet. The camera guy lowered his rig. The deputies looked at the injunction and the deed and nodded. They had an exit they could live with. "Can I see the shop?" Avery asked. Gabe nodded. He waved her in. She stepped over the threshold like it meant something. He reached up and turned the flickering light off and on. It flickered again. He laughed because now it could flicker all it wanted. She looked at the lathe he'd inherited and the bench he'd built and the milk crate of spare bolts that he'd organized by size when the work was slow. She put her hand on the red toolbox. "Your dad's?" "Yeah," he said. The word barely made it out. Leo hovered in the doorway. Avery turned. "You're Leo, right?" "Yeah," he said, chin up. "You saw your dad run into the street?" she asked. He nodded. "He didn't think," Leo said. "He just moved." "He thought," she said. "He just moved faster than the thought." Leo grinned despite himself. There was a scuffle out front. The deputy had company. A woman from the city attorney's office arrived with a folder. She went straight to Klein with purpose in her step. A man in a too-new suit peeled off and slid down the alley. A neighbor filmed. The wheel turned. Avery took her phone. We start next Saturday, she said. Clinical day, we'll bring parts, wheel bearings, caster forks, footrests, liners, socks for the prosthetics, safety checks. You'll tell us what else. You sure? Gabe said. I don't know paperwork. We'll handle paperwork, she said. You handle bolts. He nodded. He could handle bolts. She reached into her pocket and brought out the U-bolt he'd used that day. He stared at it. He hadn't realized she took it. I kept it, she said. Little reminder of what holds when it matters. He smiled at that. He let himself. Wasn't much, he said. Was enough, she said. 2 weeks later, the first clinic lined the sidewalk, wheelchairs in a row, strollers, walkers, an old veteran with a footplate held on by duct tape. A teenager whose crutches squeaked every step. The air smelled like coffee and tires. Gabe wore a clean shirt that still had a few stains. He set up 3 folding tables with bins labeled and sorted. He had a portable press. He had a drawer full of bearings that actually fit. Avery manned the intake with a stack of forms that had big font and plain words. Volunteers from the community college lifted and steadied and fetched. A nurse from the clinic on 5th checked skin for pressure sores and whispered when she saw one that needed intervention. Gabe worked. He kept his voice low and steady when hands were nervous. He let people see and touch and understand. He listened when a man asked how much and wanted to die of shame, and he said, still without looking up, "No charge," and the man's shoulders dropped. He finished the veteran's footplate. He spun it once, let go, and it held straight like it should have always done. The veteran swallowed hard and looked away at nothing. A child ran circles, new tires whispering. A woman laughed the kind of laugh that unknots a day. Avery stood in the doorway at one point and watched him, and then went out to talk to a reporter and told a story with her hands open, not clenched. News crews came and then left. The regulars stayed. The neighborhood adjusted to this new thing, like a screw finally finding the threads it was meant for. Gabe hung the deed on the office wall next to the old photo. It looked ridiculous and perfect in a cheap frame. He touched the glass once, lightly, same as he'd touch a new coat of paint to see if it was dry. Work picked up. People drove past 5 other shops to give him brake jobs and alignments and oil changes because word got around about the day he didn't hesitate and the days after it when he kept not hesitating. He hired a kid from the high school program to sweep and then to wrench. He put a new ballast in the light. One evening, after the clinic closed, a familiar black sedan pulled up. Victor Cole stood on the sidewalk, hands empty. 10 minutes, he asked. His voice had gravel in it that hadn't been there before. Gabe looked at Avery, who stood by the workbench sorting parts. She shrugged. Your shop, she said. Victor stepped in. He looked at the walls like they might teach him something. He looked at the red toolbox. He looked small, and that surprised Gabe. Power always seemed larger. I was wrong, Victor said. Gabe waited. I won't pretend I see all of it now, Victor said. I don't. I know I hurt a lot of people with numbers on a page. I came to ask if there's a place in that program for my money that won't ruin it. Gabe wiped his hands. He thought of words like penance that he had read in his mother's old book. He thought of Leo watching him make this choice. Bring cash, Gabe said. No strings, no logos, no naming rights. Pay for parts and pizza. We'll feed anyone who lines up. You can sweep the floor. Victor blinked. Sweep? Yeah, Gabe said. It's important, keeps you humble. Victor nodded. He looked at the broom like it was a foreign object. He picked it up. He pushed. Avery watched from the doorway with her arms folded and 1,000 emotions moving across her face and then settling. She rolled her ankle, testing the knee. It held. Later, when the sun dropped and the shop cooled, Leo stood beside his father, chin on his forearms on the counter, watching the street. You think everything stays okay now? Leo asked. Gabe looked out at the corner, at the taco place, at the pawn shop that had decided not to sell, at the barber's pole spinning. He watched a bus hiss to a stop and take on a man with a bandaged knee and let off a nurse with tired eyes. No, he said. Things don't stay, they move. Leo was quiet, then smiled. That's why you tighten bolts, he said. That's why, Gabe said. He put his hand on the deed on the wall just for a second. That's why you check them again. The last light over the bay door didn't flicker anymore. The sign out front now reads Santos Auto and Mobility in clean letters Leo helped paint. People walked by and waved. He waved back. He kept the U-bolt on the workbench. He kept the card with the plain number in the drawer. He answered when it rang, and sometimes it was a mother who needed a caster bearing, and sometimes it was a man with too much pride for his own good, and sometimes it was Avery sending a picture of someone standing taller. He never sent a bill for those days. He sent people out the door with their wheels straight, and their weight carried, and their heads a little higher. He watched them go and knew something he hadn't been able to name until that month taught him the word. Enough.